And here we are once again, everyone. This, of course, is our weekly review of WandaVision, episode 3, now in color. Lots of stuff to talk about in this episode for sure. It's clear that things are already starting to get a little weird, get a little, cracks are really starting to show, and things are starting to get a lot less funny than they once were, and in the best ways. But, of course, here to talk with me about it, as usual, are my co-hosts. First of all, he's usually with me for these reviews. He was just freaking out over a partnership with WWE, taking over Peacock, even though I think that's a good move because nobody uses Peacock anyway. Here he is, FilmFan0599.
Hello, everyone. FilmFan0599 here again. We're here for our WandaVision in color. I'm very excited to talk about this episode. There is a lot to get into with this episode, so it should be a good one. So I'm really excited.
All right, and also here, just like last week, he held us up for about 20 minutes for really no reason, telling us he was not ready, but then saying he was ready. So here he is, though, Auburn Wanderer.
Why am I laughing? I don't know.
All right, that's enough of that. Here he is, Auburn Wanderer.
I'm ordering food right now.
Wow. That's amazing.
WandaVision, yo. I'm happy to be back.
Yes, for sure. Yes, glad to have you on for sure, as always. But anyways, we'll just get into this episode. So going into this episode, I was really excited to see how this one was going to turn out. I really loved the premiere. I thought right out of the gate, they just had such a specific style. It really felt like Marvel was, really just kind of playing around with what they could do, going for something weird and subversive. And coming into this episode, I really didn't know how it was going to turn out. I heard a lot of people say that this was really kind of like the start of what's really going on. And after watching it, yeah, definitely this is already a big high point for the show. I think this is absolutely the best episode so far. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here. And I'm really excited to dive into it. But before we do, Film Fam, what did you think of this episode overall?
I thought it was a very good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. It was, like you said, things are starting to get less funny. Things are starting to go more a darker path, and we do see that. We do see that throughout the episode, but more or less we see that really coming to fruition towards the end of the episode, which was some really, really intense stuff. And overall, I'd say I really enjoyed the episode a lot. It's a very good episode, honestly.
Yes, and also Mr. DoorDash order himself. What did you think of this episode?
Well, first, I got some nice food, some vegan pancakes, and some, nice food also. But I thought this was a very, very good episode. It is the best episode so far, definitely. The ending is great, especially of this episode, and it's really no shit we will. And it's just it's a really, really fun time. We just vibing at this.
Yeah. So because you already brought it up, I guess we'll just kind of jump into it because it's a big thing that everyone is talking about. So this episode, similar to the first two, seems pretty basic at first. You have, Wanda, and she's very clearly pregnant. They're trying to act like it's been a few months, but really it's like an accelerated pregnancy. It's only been about 12 hours, and you can see it's really taking a hold on her and things like that. And basically, it's all the wacky hijinks that are going on. But quickly things do take a turn because you realize that there's something off here. I mean, the way that she's acting, at first it's something as simple as, these, butterflies are appearing instead of the crib, or the crib is formed, or, this random Duck appears or something like that. We don't really know what's going on there. But then you start to realize that, oh, the appliances are also acting up and the power's going out and things like that. And all of that is kind of humorous, except when you look at it in a much darker way, because we start to realize throughout the episode that there's definitely, again, something weird going on. And I think one of the things that you brought up right off the bat, Double Nine, is that your favorite moment of this episode is that Vision is starting to become a lot more cognizant of it. He starts to realize a pattern of things that are going on. And I know you were particularly taken by that scene. So I guess
So when I was watching the episode, Vision is going like, something's wrong here, Wanda. Something's weird. And if you notice, he looks at the camera for about a second, and then he's just like, I think there's something going on here. And then like it kind of zooms out on Wanda's face, but then it does like this kind of just this rewind kind of pause effect, and we go right back to the scene.
Right.
And I was like, oh shit. Like, because like, Vision's starting to act up on things. So Wanda's like, no, I ain't having that. So they literally rewound the entire scene. Like that's the shit I like about this show. That's what I like about this the most. Like, it's so great. It was by far my favorite moment of the episode, because just like, it was just so out of nowhere, but like, it was just so cool, because I saw so many people on like Twitter or TikTok were like, man, I had to check if I accidentally rewound the scene or whatever. Like that's how you do. Like, that's how you do shit like that. That's like clever shit. I love shit like that. And it was great. So yeah, we definitely see throughout this episode that things, like you said, things are getting much more weirder than they have been in the first two episodes. We're definitely going down a much darker path. And, like the appliances are all coming to life, like Wanda's powers are like acting up and shit. So I am curious to see where the fourth episode is going now, because especially like you said, with how the episode ended, I am really curious, because, this definitely is going down a much darker path than it was beforehand.
For sure. And I think the other thing to really bring up is the character of Herb, who, we have a very similar instance to what we get in the first episode, where it seems like all he does is stand outside, say hi to Vision, and then attend to the hedges. That's all he does. He's trimming the hedges. There's a moment where Vision's telling him, like, you're doing it too much, and he just keeps going. And this really kind of throws Vision off. And my theory is that basically everyone else knows what's going on except Vision, and they're trying to keep him in the dark, like, as long as they possibly can. And Wanda especially wants to keep him in the dark. And I think the reason why she keeps, rewinding and fast forwarding, it's not because they're trying to break her out of the reality. It's because she doesn't want Vision to realize what's really going on, or at least this version of Vision, because then that will break her, this, reality for her in a sense. And I think that's what's really kind of going on there. But Auburn, what did you think of the whole idea of, Vision kind of starting to take note of more of what's going on?
Yeah, man, it's really interesting, I think it's neat too, because you have the contrast of like, Wanda trying to act like everything's okay, but like Vision's picking up on things, and so it kind of creates that like sort of like really good sense of tension, because you have like one person who knows something's wrong, but the other one like isn't really. Obviously, like Wanda's like so powerful and stuff, and weird stuff's happening, and it's a good way of creating tension and dread, because we as an audience know that something's wrong, but Wanda clearly is unhinged and stuff. So
yeah, for sure. And you can really see that throughout this episode. I mean, there are multiple moments throughout this episode where, she has that overly cheery personality that you would expect someone like this to have in a 70s sitcom, but then it will break away, and you realize that, it reminds you that like Wanda is fully aware of what's going on, I think, and we talked about this before. She's fully aware of what's going on, and I think she's just trying to keep things in a certain reality. She wants to make sure that things stay a certain way. And I talked to you, Double Nine, about this like on Friday. I think the reason why she's chose like these really cheesy sitcoms is because nothing really bad happens in a sitcom. You know, yes, you'll have some like wacky hijinks, but after 30 minutes, it's done. And then you move on to something else. And I think that's really where Wanda needs to be at this point. It gives her a sense of solace. It gives her a sense of, you know, just relief from everything. It's a coping mechanism to really heal the people that, you know, she's lost in her life. And I think that's why we are where we are at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Because to be honest, like, you know, you definitely sitcoms definitely have deep moments and dark moments, but really, for the most part, especially in sitcoms from this era, they're very much not much bad happens in these sitcoms. They're very much like, you know, let's get the wacky hijinks to ensue, and you know, then that's it. You know, 30 minutes, that's done. That's it, and that's done. And you know, but here's the thing, though. This is a sitcom set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so the cracks are already starting to unfold.
Exactly.
And so like it is an interesting concept for, you know, Wanda, because, you know, she's been through so much in her life, lost so many people in her life, so she has to lock herself in this reality where, you know, nothing bad happens, and she's trying to keep it that way. And, you know, like I keep on referring to, like in the end of this episode, she is really trying to keep this on the down lock, like for real. Like, she really is trying to like keep this seclusion, but like we keep on saying, it really is starting to break apart the more and more I feel like the show is going to go on.
No, for sure. And I even noticed this week, you know, because I've seen this episode twice now. What I found very interesting about this episode is that while the first two episodes had like some generally really funny moments, this one really doesn't. And I think that's intentional. It's supposed to feel a little bit more forced. Like, yes, you have funny stuff like, oh, she's having these weird contractions and Vision is trying to like, you know, or they're saying like what, you know, what sort of fruit, you know, that her, you know, stomach is going to look like and things like that. Like that stuff is funny, but the laughter, it feels a lot more forced this time around because, again, Wanda is just doing everything she possibly can to keep things lighthearted and fun, even if it really isn't. That's why there are many times this week where you'll hear that audience laughter and you're like, that's not really funny what's being said. You know, it takes on a more sort of eerie feeling, and I really love the way they did that here.
And one more thing before, you know, because when they did the rewound thing, you know, the audience wasn't laughing at first, but then when they did it, it was like, it just has such a creepy and eerie vibe to it, like this show.
It's like, because you didn't hear the laughter, it's like, oh, that's not right. We gotta, like, you know.
So it's really interesting. It's really great, honestly. It's the thing I think I love about this show the most, in all honesty.
No, yeah, I love just how, again, just aware one is of what's really going on. But the other thing of course, to talk about, because we had to get into this, is Monica, this episode, has a lot more to do this time around. She had stuff in the second episode, but again, it didn't really seem like she's supposed to be there. Even more so this week, it seems like she's not supposed to be there. I mean, the second that Wanda is referring to Geraldine, she's like, no, I'm Foxy. She doesn't really seem to have much of a purpose other than just to be there and tend to Wanda and help her through this pregnancy of sorts. And I thought Teyonah Parris just did a really good job of showing that Geraldine is taking on this sort of, you know, comedic persona of like the best friend character or something like that. But in reality, she really has no idea what her purpose is inside this world. And I just thought she did such an excellent job with that. But what did you think of everything going on with Monica this week?
I'll let Kane go first.
Yeah, Auburn, go ahead.
I mean, like I said in the original review for the first two episodes, I think, you know, like, she knows that this is all kind of fake and shit, and she's trying to poke at the strings now and shit, because I think she's like the quote-unquote villain of this whole thing, so
yeah, I think. Oh, you were talking about. You were just talking about Agnes. I was talking about Geraldine, aka Monica.
Wait, what are we talking about?
You know, Teyonah Parris's character, Geraldine, Monica.
Well, she knows, and what you guys can talk about.
Okay, so yeah, so
but-
what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna quickly talk about that, but yeah, like she, like I also feel like because towards the end she is stirring the pot, with Wanda. At first it's all like I'm trying to be the quirky best friend,
Right.
but then once the end came in, she started stirring that pot, and yeah, it backfired pretty quickly on her. But yeah, I think she's what's the actress's name again?
Teyonah Parris.
Teyonah Parris, I think she's really good in this.
Yeah.
I really enjoy her a lot. I think her performance is great in this episode. So yeah, I like what they're doing with her as well, honestly.
Yeah, and she's gonna, like I said, like we've talked about last week, she's gonna be a very integral part, I think, of Phase 4 moving forward. And I think this was a really good way to really introduce her character, because it's making us realize she knows a lot about who Wanda is. But you also have to think about the fact that if she knows so much about Wanda, she also should know just how powerful Wanda really is. So when she does what she does in this episode, she's fully willing for Wanda to just kind of lose it and just go all out in terms of her powers. And I really liked the way that was handled here. And then, of course, that leads us to the big moment where we actually see Wanda finally be like emotionally vulnerable with someone. She talks to, she talks to Monica for the first time in pretty much since Age of Ultron. We get a mention of Pietro, and she talks about how she had this twin brother once, because of course she does have twin boys, and this is kind of reminding her of that. And it's a how important of a moment this is for Wanda, because how much her brother meant to her in that way. They both were twins, and now she's kind of it's kind of come full circle in that way for her with Tommy and Billy, who I'm hearing are going to be very important moving forward. I don't know too much about the comics, but I've heard that Scarlet Witch's children, Scarlet and Vision, Wanda and Vision's children, are very special in that way. And I think we're definitely going to get to see more of that in the next few episodes. But we see her, and suddenly she's not acting like the perky sort of, again, superficial type character she's been playing. She feels a lot more real, feels a lot more authentic. And again, it gives off this kind of creepy vibe in a way where you realize that this is her one moment where she's kind of just being emotionally vulnerable, but it was to absolutely the wrong person, because Monica knows exactly what she's talking about. Monica knows who Ultron is. Monica knows who Pietro is. And just the way the other shoe dropped there, it was just so well handled, because you're not expecting for that to happen. I thought they built up to that just so well overall.
I would agree. I agree 100%, because the way that just because the way she starts talking about Pedro, and it's a really nice scene. I really like it, but then once she was once Monica was like
Sokovian lullaby, things like that.
Yeah, and and once she went he was killed by Ultron, the fucking light bulb just shattered into pieces, and just oh, dude, you could just feel the fucking tension. It was horrifying. Because you could just, because we know what Wanda is capable of. We know, we know how much she could just fuck up everything.
Yeah, and it reminds you of Endgame, where she's like, "You took everything from me," to Thanos, and nearly kills him.
So. When you see that, it's well, shit, what's about to happen? It creates a very horrifying picture, and it makes it very intense, because you don't know what she's going to do to this person, because we've said, she's very unstoppable and very, very powerful. So it was a really, really intense scene. It was a really great way, I think, to end the episode off. Honestly, it was a really, really intense scene, in my opinion. I did love it a lot.
For sure. Auburn. Caden.
What?
Oh, we're talking about the scene where she we hear Geraldine reference Ultron and things like that.
Yeah, man. Well, the thing that's interesting about that whole thing is just like, it makes me question how this whole thing is working out because I was saying in the first review we did that like, oh, this is like a simulation by sort of something, but like, maybe still is, like, it seems like Wanda like took her out entirely of like this like whatever it is, but it was almost like a portal, like in some type of like
Yeah.
alternate like dimension, like in Endgame we saw that type of stuff. So it's like, you know, it makes me wonder like how this whole thing is, working. But I think the whole scene was fucking great.
Yeah.
When she references Ultron and she starts, Wanda starts like singing and stuff. In what's it, Scanovian, I think.
Sokovian.
Sokovian. And that whole thing, like that whole scene is fucking great. Yeah, no, I'm very interested in seeing how the next episode tackles all of it, because I know there's some footage where like they like show her again on like that like base thing I was referencing, because like I don't know if that's like a sword thing. I don't know, like that's interesting because like now it makes the whole theories I have
Oh,
kind of,
I think she 100% is stored because of the symbol around her neck.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's
And I don't know if you noticed, but I watched
no, you're right.
the,
Actually, I forgot. I heard about that actually, because she says what symbol is that? She has an necklace of swords. That's right. Actually, I forgot about that.
yeah, which was also on the plane.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Well, the thing that makes me question is like, is it like a simulation, or is she just in like some like alternate universe dimension thing, and like they like know how to like contact? Because the thing, like, obviously, because Sword originally in the comics was for like aliens and stuff, but now I think it's just for like, it's a bit different now, I think, in this Marvel Cinematic Universe sense. So it's gonna be interesting to see, but it creates a lot. It makes this whole thing more interesting, because now I knew we were gonna get to here at some point, but now it's like, it's gonna see how this is gonna connect to like everything else. You know what I mean? So
yes. Yeah, I'm very interested in seeing where we go with that. But of course, the other big scene to talk about before we get to the actual end is we get this, while this is going on, we also get this moment with Vision where he's talking to the neighbors, and suddenly they're not as cheery as they were before. We do see Herb, and like he's, still greeting towards Vision, but Vision can tell like there's something off here. They're gossiping. There seems like there's not something right. And again, ties into the fact that Monica's not supposed to be here, clearly, because the way that Agnes and Herb are talking, she has no family. She has no home. She's just gotten there, really has no place in this story whatsoever. So what is she really doing here? And I think that Herb is, well aware of what's actually going on. And, he mentions how, she came here because we're all, I think he was going to say sword agents. I'm pretty sure that's what he was getting towards, right? Film fan, that's kind of like what I was thinking, that he was going to say we're all sword agents, but Agnes like abruptly cuts him off. So again, I think similar to Wanda, they need to make sure that Vision is not in the know about any of what's actually going on, because I think Agnes clearly has her own sort of motivation. We don't know what it really is, but I think she, again, is also well aware of what's going on. And like Kaden has said before, like she's kind of like pulling the strings in a sense. And I think there's definitely a reason for that. But again, really just ties in the idea that she's clearly not supposed to be here. She doesn't fit into this universe. And I'm interested in seeing really what that is all about. But Double Nine, I mean, I'm pretty sure we know what they were going to say, but what did you think of that whole sequence? Because it's really the first time we've seen like other characters besides Wanda really try to like really just not like be in the dark about what's really going on, and just really kind of question like what's happening here.
Yeah, that scene was also really intense too, because Vision hears them, kind of gossiping, and he's wondering what the hell's going on, and then and Herb is like we're all, and then Agnes is like like they don't want him to be in the know of what is going on, and then they just go back to doing the regular sitcom shit that they're doing, because they just desperately do not want Vision to know what is really happening. Like, and
even the doctor, I forgot to say that. There's that moment with the doctor where before he's like, oh, I'm going off to Bermuda. Like, he's like this, like, over the top, like, just silly doctor. But then all of a sudden he's like a lot more serious. He's like, I can't go anywhere from here. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, is there anywhere outside of Westview in this, wherever they are, like they can't go any further. I think he's legit in saying, like, I can't go any further than here.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, and I thought it was a great scene. Like, it really does. Maybe they could be sword agents, but like we've been saying, I think Agnes has a plan of her own.
I don't think
Yeah, she has something up her sleeve, but I'm very interested to see where that goes to, because like I said, that scene was also pretty intense too, and I'm curious to see where that goes as well.
Yeah, I don't really know where we are headed with that, but the way the episode ends, especially, I mean, it ends on just such a intriguing note. We see Monica come out of this portal. She's now all of a sudden
come out of it. She's literally fucking yeeted out of that.
Yeah, she's yeeted out of it. We see like the aspect ratios change, so we're now in like regular times clearly, and we see all of these agents come out. I'm assuming they are sword agents coming to attend to her, and who knows what's really going on there. I don't really know where we're headed exactly, but I'm very, very excited to see. And I have heard that Elizabeth Olsen mentioned that next week we're going to get a bit of a change in like perspective. So it is possible that next week's episode could just be like catching us up on who Monica really is. And that's why we had like that shift in perspective at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, because like she gets out of the portal, the aspect ratio changes, so yeah. I'm very curious to see that, and then we see what I'm assuming is sword agents swarming her and shit. So right. I'm curious. I'm very interested to see what happens next week. Or this week.
Auburn, what did you think of the way this episode ended overall?
Like I said, it was pretty intense and pretty cool, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I really just love the way things ended up wrapping up there. But yeah, that's pretty much everything to say in terms of story for this episode. Getting into the directing, like I said before, I think this was absolutely the best directed episode yet. I thought Max Jackman's directing, he's directed all these episodes, and I thought he's just done such a great job, especially with this one, of giving us that sitcom feel and making us feel comfortable in this sitcom feel. Because at this point, we've had 3 episodes that, especially with the really cheesy intro and things like that, and just the audience laughter and just the way it looks and feels like a 70s sitcom, he does a great job. So when that other shoe drops and things suddenly get a lot more dark and a lot more serious and a lot weird, we're really thrown off by it. And I think he did the best with this episode, because we were not expecting it to get as dark as it really did. We knew it was heading towards here, but we didn't know it was going to happen as quickly as it really did. Things are already starting to feel a bit more manufactured. Things are starting to feel a bit more fake in that way. And I think that's something he just did such an excellent job with in terms of directing overall. I don't know where Caden went. I think he's coming back. I'm not sure. But I guess we will have to see. Yeah, I just thought his directing was absolutely phenomenal here. And I really like the way that he directed this episode, especially, like I said, those last few minutes. I mean, it just felt so dark. It felt so emotionally raw in that way. It felt honestly kind of horrifying in a way that the MCU really hasn't. And I really liked the way they handled that here.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. The directing, I thought, was really fantastic with this episode. Like you said, really settling us into this, sitcom universe and stuff like that. But, it does start to take a dark turn. And I do think he did a really fantastic job with the directing here. It's very well shot. The cinematography is really, really great with this episode, I must say. And also I gotta give it up for, once again, the production design, the costume design, really giving us the feel of a 70s sitcom, and it does a really
they're really going all out with it. They really
are.
Yeah,
it's really fantastic. Also, another thing that I don't think many people have mentioned, but the previously thing when they do previously on WandaVision, it feels very much like a sitcom previously thing. I don't know why, but it does, and it really does. But
it's probably because of the happy music playing and things like that. I think it's trying to make us feel comfortable to the point where when things shift, it throws us off that much more.
Yeah, for sure. So I thought once again, the directing was really incredible, and also the writing here too was really stellar as well. So
yeah, just really great overall. Again, in terms of the writing, I liked that things started off very simplistic and then things just got significantly more complex as it went on. And I think that they're just doing such a great job in terms of the writing. But again, even throughout the episode, you can tell there's something weird going on. The way certain characters are acting. Herb constantly attending to trimming the hedges, or this doctor talking about how he wants to go off to Bermuda, but he never really seems to go anywhere else but here, or Dottie asking her husband what he thinks of her earrings, and then all of a sudden he doesn't want to tell her. It's again, these are things that are funny in the moment, but because of the way things end, it kind of takes on a darker undertone, and I think that is also really interesting. Something else I didn't mention, with Agnes's character, that we still haven't seen her husband. She's constantly talking about him, and people have talked about how, it's kind of like a sitcom where there are characters that we never see. I also think there's some greater significance there. So I'm interested in seeing what that's all about. And I just think writing-wise, they're doing such a great job at very slowly uncovering the details. And also Monica's character, again, we know so little about her, but we already know just enough. It's clear that she knows more. That's what makes her such an intriguing character. That's what makes Teyonah Parris's performance that much more intriguing. And I just think they're doing such a great job with just giving us enough. And Agnes as well, they didn't try to overuse her or anything this episode, and I just really loved the way that was handled. But Caden, what did you think of everything going on production-wise and directing here this episode?
Yeah, man, the production of this episode's great with all the flying shit and the rain and the water and the flying. It's all cool.
Yeah, really good stuff overall. And then, of course, the intro, we talked about that. I mean, they really do such a great job with giving you that 70s feel throughout the entire episode. But I also really liked how, you then get more serious music throughout. Things are a little bit, just playful, but then things get a lot more serious. And I thought, again, even with the score, there was a really good contrast there that I thought really did work for this episode a lot. The one thing we also did not talk about is the commercial in this episode. It wasn't anything too big this week. It was something called Hydro Soak, which again, I do still think is less this week. I think it was less of giving us a clue as to what's going on and more just kind of summing up what this show is kind of all about, because Hydro Soak, they keep talking about, having power or needing a break from certain things and trying to just get away from it all in that way. And that's very much what Wanda is doing here. She's in this reality to get a break from the emotional trauma that she's dealing with. This is her way of coping with it. And again, similar to how this woman was, getting a break from her kids, constantly needing her to attend to them and just taking a bath. It's like Wanda creating this reality, this more happier and false reality where she feels more secure in that way. It gives her this false sense of security, and I think that's kind of what the commercial was really going for there. But what do you think of that, Double Nine?
Oh yeah, because I'll be honest, I didn't really get the commercial at first, But then once you start really reading into it and start really like, oh, the similar contrast to what's going on with Wanda is happening in this commercial. And it's really great stuff. Like, this is just like these are the things that make me really enjoy this show a lot. Like, it really does want to make you look at things a little more deeper, a little look a lot more into things. I really enjoy that a lot. I think it does a really great job with that, honestly. I really, because like I said, I didn't quite get the commercial at first. I was like, I don't know really what the purpose of this is. But then when you do look at it in that way, and you look at it, you know, as, you know, because the similar contrasts, it's really fantastic, honestly. So yeah, like even when there's things that I think are kind of just like, I don't really get them, you know, at first, they come right back to me. I'm like, oh, that was actually pretty great. So yeah. I really liked it a lot. So yeah, good shit.
They're really just doing such a good job with the attention to detail on all fronts. I just think they really just go all out with it. And again, just certain things that you don't even really think about. They connect to it so well in that way. Other than that, though, I think I've really gotten into everything I love about this episode in terms of all that stuff. This really, for me, was just the best episode so far overall. The way that things started off similar to the first two, really making you think this is just going to be lighthearted and fun and maybe have some occasional darkness, but really end up going fully dark throughout the end and kind of start to give you a sense of what's really going on. And I think they're just doing such a great job with that. You know, the way they're really peeling back the layers of some of these characters is just so well done. And it's really shaping up to be, I think, one of Marvel's most impressive things that they've really ever done throughout the weeks. I'm just becoming more, I know we've only had 3 episodes, but I'm just becoming more and more impressed as this show really does go on. Production design wise, just story wise, everything is just really impressing me. And I cannot wait to see where else the show is really going to go. So for me, this was easily the best episode so far. And I am going to give WandaVision episode 3, now in color, overall in A.
All right. Overall, I thought this was a very good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. I like where things are heading. As far with this episode, in all honesty, it's going to be very intriguing to see where this goes from here on out, in all honesty. So yeah, very good. A really great last few minutes with the episode. So yeah, overall, I'm going to give this episode a B+, baby.
All right, Caden.
Yeah, man, it was pretty good. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, boys. Yeah.
All right, and with that, guys, we are pretty much done here in terms of our review for this week's episode. Again, lots of stuff to talk about moving forward. I cannot wait to see where else this show is going to go in the coming weeks. But, of course, before we do end things off, we are going to do the outros here, starting off with FilmFan.
Hello, everyone. Yes, you can find me on my YouTube channel, FilmFan0599. You can find me on Twitter at FilmFan0599. You can find me on TikTok at FilmFan0599. And you can, of course, just shut up. You got, of course, you can find me on Letterboxd, WWEFan0599, because Letterboxd won't let me change the username unless I pay for it for some fucking reason. Letterboxd, I'm still going to come for your asses.
I know, just the worst. All right, Caden, go ahead.
Yo, what up, boys? Y'all can look me up on the YouTube and other things I have. Thanks for having me on.
You're always so tired. Goddamn.
I'm just tired today. I'm sorry.
I get that. It do be like that sometimes.
But I'll see y'all next week.
Yes. All right. Other than that, guys, we are done here. That's really it for our review of this week's episode of WandaVision. Of course, as always, guys, comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of this episode, your theories, what's really going on, how you felt about, everything that went down, all that kind of stuff. Would love to hear your thoughts on all of those things. Thank you to my guests, as always. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Fuck you.